Stu, I'd like to talk about renewal pruning right now. The best time for that is this time of year when things are dormant, the leaves are gone, you can see what you're working with inside the plant. Notice we got some pretty old wood down there. In fact, in this particular plant, the cornice or dogwood, the old wood loses its red color and isn't much interest anymore.
So in this particular one you're talking about right here, where it's all gray now,
right,
whereas the newer wood is right here.
Right. What you want to do is periodically, after the plant has been in the ground for 3 to 5 years, go in and thin out some of those larger pieces of stems, and then promote more new growth from the base of the plant. Once you've got a third of that out of the plant, you probably would want to address the top, bringing that down so that the plant itself looks like it's more in scale.
And can you do that all at the same time?
Yes.
But just go ahead, take out the larger gray pieces in this instance, and then step back and kind of shape it.
Sure, you can. And that can be done with a lot of fast woody growing plants too. You might even have to do it to forsythias, which you normally wouldn't trim until after they bloom. But if it's too big and too thick and you need to get it back to a natural, smaller plant again, then you're going to have to wait and do it this time of year and not wait until after the blooms are finished.
Okay, so let's take this dogwood for instance. How would you go about renewal pruning this?
Sure. This is a good tool to get into the inside of the plant, the hawk-billed pruners. You want to go down into the bottom and just take out some of that old growth.
Kind of pull it right out?
Right, you take that away and then you take a couple other of them out as well.
So you just kind of look for the oldest, largest, maybe more discolored stalks and then pull them out?
Possibly even dead wood, you know, to get that out of there. Right now you notice that it still looks better than it did before already. You want to remove some of the other dead stems around just to clean up the shrub itself. And then step back and look at what you have left. This is a real good example of a nice young branch, you know, it's still got a good color, it's not real thick and full. This one right here, that's questionable. It's starting to turn color, it's really thick on the bottom. I would say take this one out and see what you got left after that.
So you take a considerable amount of the volume of the tree out, but you're right, the discolored old, some of it being dead wood, is now gone and it looks really pleasant there. And when we talk about winter interest, dogwood, what a prime example of that.
Exactly, that looks great. You can do this in fall or spring, just in the dormant state as well. Then the second thing that you want to do, 6 to 8 inches, remember, from where you prune is where you get the good growth. So we've already stimulated some growth down at the base of the plant to come up by pruning those out. Now I want to make it a fuller shrub and bring it back down a little bit better. And that way we can start up here and kind of do just a general trimming. Try to hit the prune mark right above a bud or an alternate branch so that your wood just doesn't die back to that point, because it will die back to the next bud.
And what you were saying is 6 to 8 inches from this point, that's where most of it's going to be, most of the new growth?
Right, so you get a lot of good new growth in through here and fill this area out much better next spring.
You know, and that's kind of enlightening to me, because when I look at it, let's say that you have a dogwood and there's an open void in there, you can pretty much stimulate growth in that area by simply pruning some of the adjacent branches.
You can push that growth back down into the plant, right, exactly, by trimming out some of those older branches and then trimming the tops back so all the growth doesn't go to the top of the plant. When I trim this right here, now we'll get these secondary buds that are down below that will be very active, as if you left it, it would just grow up and create more of a height.
So it's really a way to control the growth and the shape and ultimately the look. And you know, what we've been talking about is understanding your plant and what the role of each species is and how they're going to look best. And you know, what better way than to understand it and get out there and prune. Right,
and this is a good example of getting something back to a nice young viable shrub again for something that was already starting to look a little old and decrepit. Now you got a nice vibrant plant. It's ready for another year or 2 or 3 before you have to get in there and take out some of the other stems.
So this is a good example with the dogwood variety. Is it the same for other woody shrubs?
You know, Stu, it's basically the same, but there are some differences, and you really should check with your representative to make sure that you're doing it correctly. The softer wooded, faster growing shrubs can easily be done like this, but slower growing, harder wooded shrubs like lilacs and viburnums, for instance, they need to be thinned out a little differently and approached a little differently. So give your local representative a call or give us a call, and we can tell you exactly what type of renewal pruning is best for your shrub.
When renewal pruning, be sure to keep these key points in mind.